Look, you're exhausted. And I don't just mean tired. I mean you're experiencing that bone-deep, modern burnout that absolutely no weekend can cure. If that sounds familiar, well, you're definitely not alone. Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this because today we're looking at a 2,000-year-old framework that completely flips how we understand work, rest, and happiness.
I want you to be really honest with yourself for just a second here. Do you feel kind of trapped on a modern hamster wheel? Like, do you feel like you're only resting just so you can recover enough energy to go back to work and produce more? In our society, we treat our free time as a pit stop, right? Just a quick break to refuel the engine of our productivity. But what if that entire mindset is exactly the thing that's draining the life right out of us?
Over 2 millennia ago, the Roman philosopher Seneca looked around at the hyper-ambitious people of his time and realized something incredibly tragic. Our obsession with getting things done is actually robbing us of our present lives. It's crazy, but this 2,000-year-old problem is identical to our modern plight. We act like time is cheap, squandering it on trivial distractions and endless tasks, all while putting off actual living for some hypothetical future that might never come.
We are quite literally distracted by a trance of busyness. We cram our minds so full of schedules, notifications, and never-ending to-do lists that we legitimately forget how to live. We mistake the doing for the being. We kind of think, if we're just moving fast enough, we must be living a good life. But ancient wisdom warns us that this endless preoccupation is actually the absolute greatest obstacle to human flourishing.
Pleasure versus true happiness. Let's move to the next concept and see how this builds, because this brings us to a core problem. When we finally step off that hamster wheel, how do we actually recharge?
Modern psychology, completely echoing ancient philosophy, by the way, splits happiness into two camps. First, we have hedonic happiness. This is your quick dopamine hit. It's passively binge-watching Netflix, scrolling through feeds, or eating junk food just to numb out. And hey, it's fine in small doses, but it fades fast. On the flip side, we have what the ancient Greeks called eudaimonia. Now, this isn't just a fleeting good mood. This translates to human flourishing. Eudaimonic happiness is expansive. It requires active engagement, personal growth, and pursuing deep, real meaning. Seneca noted that for the perpetually busy, constantly preoccupied person, actually living is their lowest priority. Think about that. When our idea of rest is just a hedonistic escape, like passively doom-scrolling just to numb the pain of our heavy workload, we are flat out wasting our lives. Constantly putting things off and prioritizing those trivial distractions over self-reflection prevents us from ever achieving that deeper, eudaimonic flourishing.
Aristotle's secret: true leisure. So how do we actually break this cycle? We have to unlock Aristotle's secret, and to do that, we have to realize that we've had the translation of free time completely backwards for centuries.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the actual Greek terminology. Aristotle used the word schole to describe true leisure, which, fun fact, is actually where we get the English word school. To them, leisure wasn't zoning out. It was active, intellectual, and moral engagement. And look at their word for work, askolio. It literally translates to not leisure. So the Greeks viewed work merely as the absence of leisure. Crazy, right? Just let that sink in for a second. Today, we view leisure as a break from work. But Aristotle proposed this radical, completely opposite idea. Work is strictly an instrumental means to buy us the conditions for true leisure. You do not rest to work better. You work to earn the resources and freedom to engage in Schole. Work is just the tool. True leisure is the ultimate goal of human existence.
So what does actual rest, true Schole, look like in practice? Well, it's not just laying on a beach doing nothing. It is actively exercising your humanity. It's intellectual inquiry, like finally diving into that subject you've been deeply curious about. It's aesthetic contemplation, allowing a piece of art or music to deeply move you. It's having the kind of deep, challenging conversation that actually leaves you changed. And it's the active cultivation of your own character. Ultimately, this is the activity of a truly flourishing soul.
The golden mean of rest. Of course, knowing this philosophy and actually living it are two very different things. How do we find this balance in a society that's so addicted to extremes? We are constantly being pulled between two extreme vices. On one side, we have the high-anxiety excess of hustle culture. You know the drill, chronic overworking, tying our entire self-worth to our economic output, and racing straight toward burnout. On the other side, we have the lethargic deficiency. This is total idleness, passive consumption, avoiding all effort, and just numbing ourselves with our screens. Absolutely neither of these paths leads to a good life. Aristotle's solution here is his famous ethical framework, the golden mean. Virtue and true rest sit perfectly in the balanced middle ground between excess and deficiency. But here's the catch. It is not some fixed mathematical midpoint. The right amount of work and the right amount of leisure depends entirely on you. It depends on your capacities and your current life context. It requires constant active calibration.
Cultivating virtuous friendships. But look, you can't calibrate this whole thing alone, which brings us to one of the most vital yet demanding elements of Aristotle's formula: human connection.
Aristotle famously categorized our relationships into 3 tiers, and this brilliantly illustrates why a lot of our modern connections feel so empty. First are friendships of utility, based on mutual benefit, like professional networking. They dissolve as soon as the transaction ends. Second are friendships of pleasure, based on shared hobbies or just having fun together. But the highest tier, that's the friendship of virtue. This isn't about what you can get from someone. It's based on mutual moral excellence and a shared commitment to helping each other flourish.
As Aristotle says, this is a complete sort of friendship. And let's be real, these relationships require immense vulnerability, time, and care. You cannot life hack or optimize true human connection, but they are absolutely essential external goods. True friends help us become better, they hold us accountable to that golden mean we talked about, and they provide the deep, meaningful conversation that constitutes true leisure.
Reclaiming your time. So we know the goal is eudaimonia. We know the method is Schole and finding the golden mean. Now let's pivot to how we actually reclaim your time, right now in the modern world.
Philosophy is totally useless if it just stays locked up in your head. Aristotle knew this, which is exactly why he emphasized phronesis, or practical wisdom. This is incredibly empowering. It's the missing link. It's the intellectual bridge between knowing what is good and reliably actually doing it in the messy, chaotic reality of everyday life. You need practical wisdom to navigate the noise.
So here is your step-by-step roadmap to stepping off the hamster wheel. First, do only what is essential. Second, ruthlessly filter out distractions. Third, cultivate inner tranquility. Remember Seneca? He famously wrote his brilliant philosophy while living directly above a loud, chaotic Roman bathhouse. Seriously, try picturing him writing profound wisdom while people are literally screaming, splashing, and lifting weights right below his floorboards. He proved that external noise only distracts you if your mind is already unstable. And fourth, replace that passive scrolling with active contemplation and learning. So the crucial point is, to actually achieve this, we can look to the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He realized that to find tranquility and to carve out the space for true leisure, you absolutely must eliminate the non-essential. The hard truth is, most of what we do, say, and worry about is simply not necessary. By stripping away that superficial busyness, we finally win back the time to actually live. Which leaves us with the ultimate question, and one you have to answer for yourself today. I want you to look at your calendar, look at your daily habits, and ask, are you building a life of true Schole, investing in your mind, your virtues, and your deepest friendships? Or are you just recovering on the hamster wheel, living solely for your next shift? The choice of how to spend your precious time is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer, and I'll see you next time.